We'll move along. As the crisis continues, domestic abuse, anxiety, depression, and social isolation have all significantly risen. What coping strategies do you think could help these individuals and families? Jamie, would you like to start?
Sure. You're right. Um, Being what we just kind of talked about, being all at home at once, it sometimes becomes just extremely overwhelming for us. And I can understand and attest to having the list of things to do and learning to cope with the littles, trying to do e-learning, learning to cope with spouses working from home, those of us who maybe have even little infants, trying to manage working from home and caring for a little infant or a little toddler. It could be really overwhelming. And how we can get money on the table if those of us are laid off or not working right now, all of those stressors compile, and our brains, like Natasha said, it doesn't function very well under stress. So, one of the things that I have encouraged people to do is to try and just really honor the stress. We can't push it away. We can't pretend that it's not there anymore through the distractions anymore. So, we have to learn to honor it and accept it and hold it for really what it is and not minimize it. Wherever you're feeling the stress, oftentimes I will myself just put my hand on my heart or instruct my clients to put their hand on their heart. This is honoring thyself. This is honoring what I'm going through, and just slowly breathing into that and just being aware of the breath, breathing in and breathing out through the nose, and maybe taking a pause. And in those breaths and in that awareness, it just allows us to settle and it allows us to really hold that emotion. And as we're little, when we're parents, right, when our child comes up to us and they're hurt, we often say, we can't take the pain away, but we hold them and we honor their pain. And we're just learning to take care of ourselves in this time, like we do our little child. Often in an airplane, what do we hear first? We hear, put that oxygen mask on yourself before you could put that oxygen mask on other people. And it's so true, because if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't honor ourselves and learn how to manage some of the stress, we can never do it for anybody else. It's going to be half-hearted, and we can't give ourselves fully to anyone else. So really in this time during this overwhelming period is really just learning to listen to you, listen to what you need, and maybe give yourself that space 5 to 10 minutes in the morning and ask yourself, okay, what is it that I need today? And really just sitting with that and maybe writing a list before you move through the day. Prioritize what you need to get done. It will help you set up that day for hopefully success instead of feeling that overwhelm feeling.
Thank you, Jamie. Natasha, do you have a comment?
Yes, absolutely. Suicide prevention services, we deal with crisis all the time and we help those coming to us in crisis. So crisis is our thing. However, sustained crisis hitting us all is different. And yet it's not so different. So here's where we would take a step and say, okay, crisis, even if it's sustained, comes in waves. There are waves, or you can come up with a visual to how you want to see it. And there are little breaks in between, and they may be very small. So it might be a 5-minute break where it's just a bit of ease and you can breathe for that 5 minutes. And during that time, preparing in advance, seeing that, oh, it does come in waves. So the next round it comes, I'm going to take advantage of those 5 minutes. I might take the time to breathe, as Jamie mentioned, which is excellent. We might make a list, as Jamie mentioned. All those things are excellent. We also encourage people to really pay attention to the basics. So nutrition, making sure our bodies get something inside us at intervals throughout the day. Our brains and the rest of us do not function with low blood sugar or wonky blood sugar. And we sometimes forget those things. We need a sleep, really a priority right now, and a priority during crisis. So thinking on different ways that that can be incorporated during even naps in the afternoon, whenever you can hit those. Fresh air, some way to get the body moving. Depending on people's abilities, sometimes people just do it in their chair. Sometimes people just go to the mailbox. Sometimes people just walk around, but getting some blood moving. All the basics are things during crisis that are really extra important to focus on. Sometimes they're also easier to focus on. So we also suggest go small. Do small things that feel like you accomplish one thing and it feels good. I did one thing. If I can get my coffee pot ready the night before, okay, I know in the morning I can feel like that's one thing that's taken care of. Littler things like technology can often be our friend. I know my sister sends me a text with 2 words, thinking of you, or 3 words, right? Showing my brain being kind of taxed too. But just little things, going small, getting through small chunks. Another visual is sometimes with clients or with family, we'll suggest things like, I'm going to swim to my next island. Where's my island that I can get on, take a breath out of the water, and just relax and breathe for a few minutes. So these are ways to get through a crisis moment or a crisis day, or now we're getting through months. But looking for those small moments to get through. So that's the kind of focus we do.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks for those great ideas.
Mhm.
Maria?
I would also, going off of what Natasha had said, find ways in the internet to play games. I had one family tell me that they play poker, and they're all over the country. And they play it, first they started playing it in an hour at a time, and now they're up to about 2 hours. And the other generations are beginning to come in and play. And while they're playing, they're talking, and the family has to admit that they never talked this much before COVID, and it has worked out. It's a set routine, and they know what they're doing. And so for those of you who are living alone, reach out to your best friend or your daughter and have a set structured time that happens weekly where you're either playing a game or reading a book to your grandkids, whatever works, put that structure in, because that is just absolutely important. The other thing is there's a lot of do it, don't do it, what to do, how to do it, and that stress is not helpful at this point. If you have a favorite channel that is kind of a mainstream there and a regular doctor on there that you've been following, then you stick to doing that and take that person's advice as you're going forward. For those of us in the 24-hour world of the news, I'm thinking there comes a time, and this is it, where you limit that. We have to learn to turn off some of our social media that drives us and stresses us. Limit it. And instead, since we can't sing in our churches, we can't sing in the theater, sing in the shower, put on some of those old tunes that just make you feel good. And so that will turn around and reward you with enabling you to manage or reduce your stress that is really being caused by this experience.
As you were talking about music, music is a very powerful tool.
Yeah.
It is, it's not uncommon that I will put some headphones in and I'll put on a playlist that is one that tends to make me feel a little bit more upbeat. And there have been many a time as well where I've decided it's maybe time to unplug. And in going out on a walk, one of the things that we can do, and to be honest, this can also be done when it's in our homes as well, is to really begin to pay attention to what's going on around us. We oftentimes find ourselves getting so kind of entrenched into our daily lives that we're not paying attention to all the different things that are happening around us and kind of tuning things out that are still very important. So on this walk, I will oftentimes take the headphones out as well and really begin to pay attention to my different senses, what I can see, what I can hear, what I can feel, what I can taste, and what I can smell. And at times on this walk, I may be blessed with hearing certain birds that I've grown accustomed to over the years and paying attention to which bird is making which sound. It may be as I'm walking around the neighborhood, noticing the different scents that are coming from people's barbecues. It may be the sound of some laughter in backyards. It may be the feeling of the pavement under my feet. But that grounding exercise, one in which we are really becoming more in tune to all of our different senses, it's not aimed at controlling our thought or stopping the anxiety and depression that we may feel with COVID-19, but it is aimed at recognizing that there is more that's kind of going on. COVID has done a very intense job of making us focus on it. And our mind is oftentimes then focused on the results of COVID, the emotional stressors of, as Natasha and Jamie had mentioned earlier, kind of being together 24/7 is oftentimes a huge stress on families. And having those moments, those brief moments where we can really just kind of take time to pull ourselves back, to recognize and accept the fact that we are feeling fairly intense in regard to whatever emotion that might be. This grounding exercise can be very, very helpful. The other thing that I guess that I've found as well is that it is important to have that structure that we've all talked about. One thing that is common when we don't have structure is that our sleeping habits tend to become awry. And early on in the ball game, when COVID-19 had first become prominent in our society, it is very common that I had people come into sessions and say, I'm up until 2, 3 in the morning, and then, find myself getting up at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, which is vastly different from what I've ever done before. And so being aware of our patterns and the structure that's necessary for ourselves, the importance of getting out and having some forms of movement. It may be doing a puzzle. It may be going on the internet, watching a video. They're all very important things to do.
I'd like to add something that I'm hearing just among all of us here is what I often hear and what I sometimes feel is a lack of control, and that how COVID has really kind of brought us to this, I can't control where I go, I can't control what I do. But what I'm hearing all of us say together is that there's a lot of control that we have. And so if you're listening to what we're saying, it's taking the control back, not allowing COVID to control you, but asking yourself, okay, what is it here today that I can do to make myself feel better? And that feels so much lighter than I can't control what's going on outside, but I can certainly control what's going on with me. So I just want to highlight that. It was really a big theme that I was hearing.
Great, thank you. Great strategies.